Good day or afternoon to each and everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. I hope this video discussion finds you well. I am Mandangan Abdul Hakim and I will be discussing the application of the recognition and measurement rules. First is yung future operating net deficits. In this case, no provision shall be recognized for expected net deficits from future operating activities. Such expectation indicates that certain assets used in these activities may be impaired, and these assets shall be tested for impairment. As for future operating deficits, no provision shall be recognized. Why? Because the net deficits coming from future operations did not meet all the criteria in order for it to be recognized as a provision, and that is not a present obligation. Yes, it can be reliably measured, and an outflow of economic resources is probable, but it is not a present obligation, which is one of the criteria needed in order for it to be recognized as a provision. So these future operating net deficits only indicates that some assets used in the operating activities may be impaired lang, kaya testing of assets for impairment will only happen. The next one is the onerous contracts. So a contract is deemed onerous if if the unavoidable cost of settling the obligation under the contract exceeds or outweighs the economic benefits expected to be received from it. Additionally, obligation under an onerous contract is recognized as a provision. So, yung onerous contracts happen when yung obligation natin is mas malaki compared sa kung ano yung benefits na makukuha natin. So, yung sobra doon is recognized as a provision. Next is restructuring. For restructuring, it is a program that is planned and controlled by management and materially changes either the scope of an entity's activities and the manner in which those activities are carried out. So restructuring is actually an action taken by a company to significantly modify the financial and operational aspects of the company. Usually when the business is facing financial difficulties where they have to change the terms because the company is incapable of paying the obligation according to the original terms, thus making them change the terms. This also involves significantly modifying the debt, operations, or the structure of a company as a way of limiting financial harm, and improving the business. Another example is kapag merong restructuring na nagaganap is when there are changes in the structure of management. So paano natin malalaman kung ito ay legal obligation ba? So there exists a legal obligation to restructure if at the reporting date the entity is under a contract that binds them into an agreement that makes them committed to sell or transfer operation. Also, walang obligasyon na mangyayari not until the entity is committed to the sale or transfer. Next is yung constructive obligation. So, constructive obligation to reconstruct exists when at the time of reporting period, there is a detailed formal plan for the restructuring. At the same time, the plan is known to those affected by it. So a constructive obligation arises from the entity's own actions, with the intent of making others know that the entity will accept certain liabilities. An example of this is kapag may warranty obligations. Now, ano ba yung involved na cost in restructuring? So, a restructuring provision includes only the direct costs resulting from from restructuring, and it does not include the cost associated with the ongoing activities of the entity, the retaining or relocating continuing staff, and lastly, yung marketing or investment in new systems and distribution networks. And that would be all for my part. Thank you for listening.